got sunshine in a bag. I'm useless, but not for long. The future is coming on. I ain't happy, I'm feeling glad. I got sunshine in a bag. I'm useless, but not for long. The future is coming on. It's coming on. It's coming on. It's coming on. It's coming on.
Finally, someone let me out of my cage. Now, time for me is nothing cause I'm counting no A's. Nah, I couldn't be there. Now you shouldn't be scared. I'm good at repairs and I'm under each snare. Intangible. Bet you didn't think so I command you to. Panoramic view. Look, I'll make it all manageable. Pick and choose, sit and lose. All you different crews, chicks and dudes who you think is really kicking tunes. Picture you getting down in a picture tube. Like you lit the fuse. You think it's fictional, mystical, maybe spiritual hero who appears in you to clear your view when you're too crazy. Lifeless to those, the definition for what life is. Priceless to you because I put you on the hype shit. You like it? Gun smoke, you're righteous with one toke. You're psychic among no possess you with one go.
I'm feeling glad I got sunshine in a bag. I'm useless, not for long. The future is coming on. I ain't happy, I'm feeling glad I got sunshine in a bag. I'm useless, but not for long. The future is coming on. It's coming on. It's coming on. It's coming on. It's coming on.
The essence, the basics, without it you make it. Allow me to make this childlike in nature. Rhythm, you have it or you don't, that's a fallacy, I'm in them. Every sprouting tree, every child of peace, every cloud and sea. You see with your eyes and see destruction and demise. Corruption in the skies from this fucking enterprise. Now I'm sucked into your lives through rust, so not as muscles, but percussion to provide for me as a guide. Y'all can see me now cause you don't see with your eye. You perceive with your mind, that's the inner. So I'ma stick around with Russ and be a mentor. Bust a few rhymes so motherfuckers remember what the thought is. I brought all this so you can survive when law is lawless. Feeling sensations that you thought was dead. No squealing, remember that it's all in your head.
What's up, everybody? Wednesday. Sunshine in a bag, little daytime baseball live on the Money Taker. As always, Sean Harnish with you here, a.k.a. Guppy Money. Let's roll.
Not little gorillas to start it off. Little daytime baseball down in Cuba. Been a long time for that. Long time coming for that. We got 3-0 in the sixth. My God, you think Cuba could do something here? Obviously, we got Cuba plus 160. Tampa Bay team total under 5. Got it at plus 160, sent it out there. Closed at like minus 120. This is a big game for Cuba. Big game. But we'll see what happens. Otherwise, it's been a while since I've done a show. Been a while. Baseball rolling like along. What do we got? We got a couple of client plays going right now in baseball. We got Toronto. They're up 14-1. About to put probably another 5 spot up in the 8th here. Hits are 21-2 in that one. And we got Houston tied with Atlanta in the bottom of the 7th. They got a man on first, nobody out. Hopefully we can sneak one out there. Went 3-1 yesterday. We're rolling right along in there after a 2-8 start. We are 29-12 since those first 2 days. 29-12 in preseason. 15 for Toronto. So if you want to count that, we're 30-12. Rolling right along. A lot to get to. Obviously, March Madness going on. So I figured, we'll talk a little bit about that, what we saw over the weekend. Had some incredibly bad beats. Where to start, really? You start on Friday, Temple, Iowa game, right? The total, what was the total sitting at in that game? Either way, it was like, I forget what it is. They were sitting at 117, and the total was like in the 120s or whatever. And up by 2 with 8 seconds left. Could have sealed the win for Iowa if he made both free throws, but he just made 1 or 2. With 2 seconds left, kid got fouled on a 3-point attempt. He made both, tied the game up, goes into overtime. The under loses. Michigan at Notre Dame. Notre Dame closing line -3. You know, Michigan shot 9 of 32, 28%, and was outscored by 19 at halftime in that game. It was looking great there. Notre Dame ends up covering that game. Sorry, I didn't read that one. My bad. Hold on, let me shut this off because I'm all discombobulated here. Saturday, Gonzaga against Utah. I think we had Utah in that one. They were slightly favored in that game coming in. They're making a nice little run against Utah. You know, there was a bucket made. I forget. Someone made a bucket, and then, like, with the clock ticking down, it was hanging on by a half a point if you had the under. And the kid nailed a three-pointer. I mean, it just keeps continuing. Obviously, the Northern Iowa Texas A&M game, my God, shoot yourself in the head if you had anything to do with Northern Iowa on the money line or anything like that in that game. Oof. Unbelievable. So overall, as usual, the sports books did extremely well. They sent. You look at the Westgate and Wynn, each setting record amounts wagered at the beginning of the tournament. The Superbook was up 40% in handle from last year. That's crazy. That's more than $750,000 was bet on the Kentucky-Indiana game alone. It has a lot to do with the new apps, definitely. And the book kept plenty of it. You know, they got off to a monster start on Thursday, which I didn't. You know, so I mean, but there was a lot of parlays open to Sunday and stuff. You know, if heavy bet favorites Oklahoma, Xavier, Oregon all covered the spread, MGM would have got roasted, but they didn't. You know, so typical. You know, a lot of square bettors bet on this day, and they did not do well. 24 favorites and 24 underdogs covered the spread. 12 of the 48 games were decided by 3 points or less of the point spread. Very sharp lines were out there, and if you were on a lot of those games, you were sweating it till the end, and a lot of crazy stuff going on in that one. That's for sure. So we look forward. We look forward to Villanova -4 at Miami. Total at 140. This should be a hell of a game. They all should be really good. But, you know, you look at Villanova, number one in scoring defense. You know, I haven't completely broken down these games. These are just some things, you know, to look at, looking at them. You got two very good scoring defense teams. You look at a Miami game that went over in the first one, stayed under 129 in the second one. Over Wichita, however, big reason for that number stayed low. The Hurricanes jumped out to an early lead and never really was close. Things that, what you look for, right? Obviously, when you look at pace of play, you know, the faster the teams go, usually the more points you would expect, right? You look at the teams left in the tournament. North Carolina is the fastest paced team left in the tournament. They're only ranked 50th. Okay, and then you got Iowa State down there at 57th. Then you got to go all the way down to 88th fastest team in Oklahoma, right? And if you go from the bottom with the slowest paced teams, that's where everyone is. Virginia's the slowest paced team in the country. Wisconsin's the 5th slowest. Syracuse is in the top 20. Notre Dame is in the top 20. So you could see they all have efficient offenses, but with the shot clock shortening and they wanting to speed up the game, you know, it doesn't always result in wins. The faster you go and the more you score, as you can see with the teams that are left. But, you know, we'll see. Best Gambler, nice update with Houston. Houston's up 8-6, so that's good. Again, it's Wednesdays. Usually I just freestyle Wednesdays. Like I said, I really haven't dug into many of these ones. We'll talk about tonight's games in a minute, but just wanted to give a quick look and a quick first impression, literally first impression of these games. Texas, after you know, championship week and that weekend, I needed to decompress from basketball big time. No better way to do it than a little baseball here. And we need Cuba to get going. Let's see if we can get a home run out of one of these guys. You think Tampa Bay would let them win? I mean, it would be such a huge win for the whole country. Let them fucking win already. Texas A&M, Oklahoma favored by 2.5. You get a second life out of A&M, you know, second life out of A&M. And how about the ACC in here? But now you're going to get matchups now as you go where you get teams that are going to be playing each other. Now, especially if it's the ACC, most of these teams will be playing for a third or fourth time. And then you could start getting some numbers. But out of conference is a little different than in conference, you know. Early money has come in on Oklahoma and the over. Both lines moving a point. Obviously, Oklahoma a little more power rated. 1.5 on a neutral court, add +3. Yeah, I mean, you would think maybe, I don't know. I know Oklahoma can get got, that's for sure. Does A&M have a second life? Usually teams that get that second life, it's tough. It's almost like it's a double elimination for them now. They lose a game and they're still alive because, let's face it, they basically lost that game. What's another one I wanted to look at? Indiana against Carolina. That's an interesting game. Obviously, Indiana playing outstanding, but so isn't Carolina. Carolina running off games. They're covering, playing great defense. But Indiana, on the other hand, a little banged up now. Johnson upgraded to probable. I mean, they're all going to play, but really, they've ran it off after, a team that, for whatever reason, I know in the betting community, because they were hit or miss ATS, but they just keep hanging around, a lot like that Wisconsin team. Who do I think is going to win? Oregon looked great in the first game. St. Joe's was tough, and I when I seen the brackets, I said, you know what, that could be Oregon's toughest game, is that St. Joe's game. Sure enough, it was a tough one. I still like my Ducks. I haven't had to hedge off any of the 100-1. We'll see where that goes. But let's get into tonight. Mainly, not many games on the board, but we're going to get into a bunch of hockey tonight. Bunch of hockey to go over, and we'll get into a little baseball too, as it creeps over to the 4 o'clock hour where these 4 o'clock games get going here. We got Texas for our 4 o'clock client play, along with the Dodgers at 9 o'clock. Those are our 4 client plays today. And then, of course, we have Cuba +160 and Tampa Bay team total under 5 each for a unit. So we'll see how it goes. But we got Texas up 1-0. We like that in the top of the first. What do you guys think out there? I said it at the beginning. I wouldn't be surprised if this was real chalk in the Final Four because everyone thought that it wouldn't be. Thought there was a lot of parity. But, I think it's going to be pretty chalk. Who wins the national championship this year? Best game with Oregon is the best number 1 seed matchup. Duke, that is. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. But let's get into it. You get St. Mary's tonight going up against Valpo. In Valpo, if you guys don't know, Valpo 28-6 on the year, 16-14 ATS. St. Mary's 29-5, 18-12 ATS. You got to remember they started off like 12-0 against the spread. Hopefully you got off them when you can. But St. Mary's in non-conference this year, 10-1 ATS. Like I mentioned, they were just on fire. Really good numbers there. Versus good defensive teams, usually St. Mary's will slow it down and play that defensive pace. They've only played one team this year that's allowed less than 64 points a game, and Valpo is one of them, and the under is 1-0. You look over the last 3 years when they played teams that allow 64 or less a game, the under 8-2 to the number, not bad. On the other side, because St. Mary's, as you know, also doesn't allow more than 64 points a game. So you look at that. Valpo, when they play good defensive teams this year, happened 3 times. The under 2-1. You look over the last 3 years, the under 12-3 in that number. So you combine those numbers, you get a 20-5 record towards the under against good defensive teams with the combined. Pretty impressive numbers, if you ask me. But that's just something to think about. Obviously, St. Mary's, if I'm not mistaken, let me look because it's been so long.